Hello and welcome to BeamNG Drive. I'm your host, davidinark, and today we're going to do something a little different. I've had several requests to talk about the different options you have inside BeamNG in terms of vehicle configuration. So I fired up a Miramar here just because. So we're going to start with, I'm just going to go through the different pieces and parts, different things you can look at, things you can try on a car. And this is, I've taken out all the mods. So this is just how this simulation comes out of the box. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is because some folks, BeamNG Drive is still really young. It's only at 0.11. So a lot of folks are interested to know, what's this game look like? What can I do with the various settings and what have you, just straight out of the box. So out of the box, we have several license plates that we can pick from. So if I decide that I want to have a main license plate on my car, I can pick that. And let me zoom in and you can see we have the main lobster on the back of the car. And likewise, I can go into the vehicle config and I can change to whatever plate that I want. I mean, we're in the Utah map, so why not grab the Utah plate? And I can show you what that looks like. Again, we zoom in here. Utah rocks everywhere. Actually, Cleveland rocks, but that's beside the point. So, okay. Anyway, this Miramar actually also happens to have license plates on the front, and so we will also take a look at that as well. All kinds of different settings in here. And so one of the things that you want to look at, also there's a paint design on this particular car. And so we have colorable bumpers, or we have the Okadai livery. So just for the sake of argument, we can have colorable bumpers. And it doesn't look like anything really changed when I did that. But if I go to color up top, then here is where I should be able to choose various colors for various parts. And I purposely picked the Miramar because it does have multiple colorable parts. So for example, if I wanted to change the main body color to maybe a darker blue, I can click up in the blue area, or that's actually that's very purple as a matter of fact. You know what? Let's go purple. Why not? And you can change the brightness, so I can make it dark. I can make it really light. You can also change the chrominess, so that affects how shiny the car is, and or kind of how realistic. I mean, if you set the chrominess all the way to max, I don't know, to me it looks very cartoony as opposed to being more realistic. With backing the chrominess off, you can see the reflection of the ground and what have you. We also have this is, I'm not even sure what this is exactly, so I'm going to pick green. Okay, so that is the roof. So you see here, I can change the color and the style of the roof. We're suddenly making a very Barney looking car. Or Joker. We're going to make the Joker mobile. There you go. And then I also have colors down here, which these should be the bumpers. So if I pick, I don't know, yellow, maybe? Does that do the bumpers? I mean, it says they're colorable, but it's not really. Do you see anything changing? I don't really see. Oh, never mind. I forgot. There we go. There it is. I forgot to add some of the chrominess. And then we can make these bumpers sort of yellow. It's the weirdest looking car. Oh, that's definitely a Joker car though, man. Or at least that's what I think of. Oh my gosh, that's funny. So as you can see, this particular car has several things you can color. Not all colors, not all cars have the ability to have all these different pieces and parts colored. So that's something to look in for. But what I can do is I'm going to go back to parts up here. Soundscape, that is the sound that goes with the car and the atmosphere and all that kind of stuff. But the other main thing we're looking at here is body. And almost every vehicle is going to have a body In fact, I think every vehicle does have a body option. So one of the things here in the drop down, I can have unibody. Depending on the vehicle, there may be actually body types you can pick. But anytime there is an arrow out to the left of the text in this section, that means that there is more underneath, right? Oops. So like navigation unit, brake line, these are all single options. There's no down arrow here or side arrow. But the front bumper has an arrow, so I can not only choose front bumper, but then whether or not, in this case, it has a license plate. We'll get to that in just a second. But in terms of like, here's the navigation unit. So if I jump inside here, you see this has no GPS, right? It's a freaking Miramar. But I can add the navigation unit if I want to by choosing the beam navigator, and now I should have the stick-on navigator for this car. Now the navigator only shows up, my understanding is it only shows up on maps where AI has been programmed into the map. I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know. That's just what I read somewhere. I can't remember even where I read that. But anyway, so you can add navigation if you want to, or you can just as easily click on the drop down, take it back out again and say, no, you know what? We're not going to do navigation. And so now the stick-on GPS has disappeared. You can do a brake line lock. You can have rear bumper, whether you want the bumper or not. Do you want fender flares on the rear end? Sure we do. Why would we not want fender flares on a Miramar? Look at that, folks. Right here. Oh, that is so crazy. Okay, well, you know, it is what it is. Do you want a fuel tank or not? I recommend a fuel tank so that you can have fuel in order to propel yourself forward. But there may be a reason why you don't want a fuel tank. You can take it off if you don't want to. I'm not going to do that. Glass is a little different. Notice that as I point to different things, it shows me what it's talking about. So glass generally involves... now, it usually includes the front glass as well. It's interesting that this glass does not... Oh, yeah, that is the front glass. Oh, it's not including the back glass. Oh, yes, it is. What? What? Oh, so it's both of those, but not the door glass. Okay. And again, that's different for each car, too. So whether or not you want a hood, you might want a hoodless vehicle. Do you want lettering? That is, do you want the badging on the car, and or are there other options? So here's a GTZ lettering. So if I click on GTZ... and now you notice that I can zoom in here and I get the GTZ badging. Whether or not this is actually the GTZ version of the car doesn't matter. I can stick the badging on there and pretend I am the GTZ. Because, you know, people do that. So again, I click on the drop down here. And again, we have different things. Do I want the rear license plate? Well, yeah, I'm going to have a license plate on the back. Do I want a roll cage inside the car? Do I want a passenger seat, driver's seat? Do I want the rear seats? Maybe I don't. I don't know. Under steering wheel, I have different types of steering wheels I can pick from. So maybe I want the Arnita Sportivo or Sportivo. I don't know. Anyway, so when I go in here now, I have this racing steering wheel in my Miramar, because that makes sense. Actually, I think I would like the Classico. How about this? Let's see what this does. Ooh, look at that. That may have been the one that was in there for all I know. I don't really remember now, but anyway. So there you go. Different steering wheels. Do you want tail lights or not? Tow hitch. That's a big one. Do you want the tow hitch, which allows you to hook up a trailer or a camper? And so by adding the tow hitch, we see I now have a tow hitch on here. And just for the purposes of, since we're here, when you've got a tow hitch on your vehicle, when you hit L, that activates the tow hitch, so that if you had a camper behind you or a trailer or whatever that could connect to it, then they would link up through this blue ball. All right. So that is the tow hitch. And taking a look down through here again, some more. Interior color. Okay, this one only has a black interior option. Other vehicles may have other options you can pick from. So now let's talk about the front bumper. All right, so if I come around here with the front bumper, I can either have the front bumper, notice this one has an external oil cooler, or I can take the bumper off altogether. What's an external oil cooler? I don't even know what that is. Let's take a look and see. Oh, well, isn't that interesting? Okay. So, all right. Essentially, I don't think I've ever seen that before. In fact, I know I haven't, but there you go. So here's one of the things about when you do something like that. So you notice I changed the front bumper, right? And so now the front bumper option has been moved up to this, up into the body section, because I changed some information about the front bumper. So again, if I want to do front, just put on the regular front bumper, you will notice that, first of all, the front bumper is back, but then also the front bumper now appears lower in the list, and I have the arrow that gives me options. And in this case, the option I have for the front bumper is, do I want the front license plate? And maybe I do not. Okay. In a lot of states, you don't have to have a license plate on the front, so maybe I want a clean front bumper. We're going to call that good. So then we have other things like the door. Do we even want a door? And then for that matter, there's a sub menu. Do we want the glass or not? Remember before, when we picked the glass up here, it was looking at the front and rear glass, but it wasn't doing anything with the door glass. And that's because on this car, you can actually set whether or not you want the glass in the window. So I can say empty for the left front. Oh, actually, that's backwards. I should have said glass in that one. But anyway, so for the sake of argument, in this case, the passenger has the window down. I mean, that's essentially what you're saying here. And also evidently took this piece out, but still. All right. So again, we have what you want to do with the doors. Again, I can click on these little side things. We have the rear doors. What do I want to do? One of the most complex things that you can play around with is the engine. First of all, you'll notice that there is a drop down. So I have other things I can do with the engine itself, but on the engine line, I can actually choose a different engine. If I don't want the 1.9 liter inline 4, maybe I want the race-tuned 4-cylinder. And so now that's the engine that I have. And if I flip this around, and again, if I just point to it, it's going to show me that engine. Very, very cool. Oops, sorry, can't do that. All right. Again, I can do things like, which type of exhaust do I want? Do I want a race exhaust, or do I want it to be empty? That is no exhaust. Do I want nitrous? I can add the nitrous in here if I want nitrous. I can also play around with the transmission. And notice that the transmission also has a drop down. So inside the engine, the transmission is also tunable. So I can pick a different transmission if I want to. So maybe I want the race 5-speed transmission. And then in this case, notice that it changed the type of, I don't know what this is called, whatever this is, like whether it's a torque converter or a flywheel. In this case, by choosing the race transmission, I now have a flywheel option, and I can have the regular flywheel, a lightened flywheel, or an ultralight flywheel. By default, it was ultralight, so okay. The front fascia, do I want that fascia? Do I want the front fascia? And again, notice that I can choose the drop down, and I can either have one or not have one, but then there's also options in here. Do I want the front air dam? Do I want a grill? So I'm going to actually put on the front air dam because I want my hood to look cool. There we go. So that should, that actually didn't do what I thought it was going to do. Oh, I see. Okay, I don't know what I thought I was getting, but there you go. So anyway, we'll make the front of the car look like it's sticking its tongue out at us, I guess. I don't know. So again, all kinds of different options. The front left fender. Do I want the fender or don't I? And then other options that go with it. Do I want fender flares on the front left side? So remember before, the rear put flares on both sides regardless. But when you get to the front, you can pick and choose whether you want flare on one side, both sides. Because if I want right fender flares, I would come down, right fender, fender flare, tell it yeah, because, you know, I'm all about symmetry. I like my symmetry. So there we go. We got fender flares on both sides of the Miramar. Awesome. Radiator support. Now, in this particular car, the headlights are under the radiator support menu. In other cars, the headlights are actually separated. They are their own menu. So, again, different cars have different options. Here's a left headlight cover. Let's see what that does. What is that? Oh, that's cool. So you can make it so that your car is more like a race car or a rally car type thing. That's cool. And then again with the right headlight, sure, we'll do a cover. Why not? I am curious, so with the covers on, if I turn the lights on, what does that do? I think the lights are on actually behind the cover, but you can't really see anything. So there you go. All right. Radiator. Do you want a radiator or not? You probably do, but this is a simulation. So remember, you may want to play with scenarios where you don't have a radiator. How long will your car last without a radiator? Or here in this case, you can actually put in a high performance radiator. I'm actually going to take it out. Let's take out the radiator. Why not? Who says we have to have one, right? Sure. Let's just drive and see what happens. How long is it going to be before the car just absolutely wigs out by the fact that we don't have a radiator? The engine is going to have to get hot before too long, I am assuming. And I know what assuming does, but still. So far, we're cruising right along, and I guess the engine temperature is fine. I will probably crash out long before the radiator comes into play, because I'm not really good at this game, but... Oh, there we go. You see the engine temperature down in the lower left corner? Hang on a second here. Whoa, 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 whoa. Sorry. Yep. So down here in the lower left, you see my engine temperature is rising. In fact, it's already in the orange. And that is indicating that the engine is freaking hot. And there we go. Look at that temperature. Now we are smoking out of the front of the car because we have no radiator to keep things cool. And soon things are going to happen. Look in the lower right-hand corner. We've got different damage going on. So things are not looking good for us in our radiatorless car. Not to mention the fact that we're like crashing into the wall. Oil overheating. This is where things really start to fall apart, come apart. Head gasket's damaged, and at this point, we're going to start losing speed here before long because we are tearing the crud out of our engine by not having... Look at there, rod bearings are damaged, and there we go. We begin our descent. Now the engine is locked up. Let's see if can we start it. Nope, we can't restart the engine. We are hosed. So there you go. That's what happens when you don't have a radiator in your car. And I can grab the node here and rip the hood off, and our car is smoking. That is great. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is, before I go any further, let's put the radiator back in, because otherwise if I don't do that right now, I will forget forever that it did not have a radiator. Wait, where was... Oh, there was radiator support. And I would like... You know what? We'll do the high performance radiator. Why not? All right. So then you also have suspension options. What kind of suspension do you want? Notice that it's got a drop down, so you can also do things like shocks and springs. What kind of steering? A front sway bar. Notice here that the brakes, actually, not only do you have a choice of brakes, but inside of this, whether or not you want a particular style of brake pad. So, I mean, there are all kinds of things. Here's the trunk. Do I want a trunk or not? And then if I do want a trunk, do I want a spoiler on the trunk or not? Of course we do. We're going to just do a regular little spoiler on the back. And kadoosh, there we go. Kind of almost like a little SS kind of spoiler. So there you go. Awesome. Joker would be proud. You can also do things like, by default, your license plate is your username, but you can go in here and you can change your license plate to whatever you want. There we go. And it should Should update. Oh, hit the check mark. So there we go. One old man. There it is. I guess probably should have put Joker. But anyway, there you go. So again, that is all the different things you can look at inside the configuration. And that's just of the Miramar. If I were to go in here and pick a different vehicle. So for example, if I grab the Sunburst, and just for the sake of argument, I'm going to grab the off-road. And we'll spawn a new vehicle just because we can leave the Miramar where it is. And so now we have the Sunburst off-road. I can bring this up, go into configuration. We can see, the license plate design is empty, although you can see it has a Utah plate, and that's because the map is determining that it should have a Utah plate. I don't know how that works. Somehow in the game you tell it which license plate or something. I don't know. But anyway, various paint designs. So if I want to paint this up as a police car, then I can paint this up as an off-road police car, which is actually pretty freaking awesome. That's actually pretty swift, man. All right. So again, under body, there are all kinds of things. Do I want to have on my Sunburst? Again, things without a side arrow are by themselves. So do I want navigation unit, anti-lock braking? Do I want the front bash bar on the bumper? All that kind of stuff. So I can come down here. Do I want a tow hitch, skid plate? So you see there's way more things that you can pick from in this Sunburst than we had with the Miramar. Now, one of the things that I'd like to look at, and I'm not sure where that goes. I was looking for, here's the light bar. So if I want to, I'm going to add just the regular light bar. Since I already made it the police skin, we might as well, add the light bar on there, and I can hit M to turn on the flashers. Oh, that is so freaking cool. And then if I hit M again, we get the siren. I think it should be the siren, right? Yeah, there we go. All right. I'm not wearing my headphones, so there you go. All right, so anyway, we have that. And again, all these different options. In fact, after I enabled the light bar, notice that now the light bar actually has different options. In this case, I can actually change the siren that this light bar has. So if I change it to siren 3, when I turn on the siren, there we go. I have a different siren sound. So, on some of the cars that you put the light bar with the siren, you can pick the siren sound. Again, so here's information about front suspension. What kind of suspension what kind of steering do I have? Struts, sway bars, spindles. Oh, by the way, front brakes has options. I mean, there's all kinds of really cool stuff you can really get into. Very, very detailed. And again, this is straight out of the box. These are the vehicles that come with the game, in the configurations that come with the game, and you just go in here and choose whatever it is that you would like to have as a part of your car. Now, having said all of this, this is just on this side of things. We haven't even covered some of the other cool stuff that you can do. For example, if I go to tuning, this is also different for the different vehicles. So I can do things like, if I want to change the front bump, here, let me do this. I can change the damping. All right. So that's the stiffness. We can do, just anything in here, and I'm not a car person, so I don't know what a lot of this stuff does, but you can play around with this and completely change what your car looks and acts like in terms of just by changing these, if you know what they are. Or like me, you have no idea what they are and you just mess with them. All right, so now I can change the front ride height. And I guess it's not real time. I guess I have to apply it, so that's okay. We'll just, let's slam this down. This is going to be mega stance. In fact, the tires will probably end up in the body because I did this so badly. But you can, in this particular car, you can check out different things you can set with the differentials. You can change your tire pressure. So if you add a whole lot of pressure to your tires, then actually you can drive on water in some cases. So, you know, hey, we have, the rear track width, the fuel volume, how much gas is in your vehicle. In this case, it's got 50 liters. But, you know, hey, if you want to see how far you can get with just maybe half a liter of gas, we'll go for that. Alignment, you've got the different camber settings. So, again, what's your vehicle, how it leans, and or your toes, so you can set the toe in on your wheels. My car is really going to be in bad shape when I get done with this. You can set your transmission ratios. Okay, so I'm going to apply. Oh, here's the option down here for live updates. I can't imagine what this is going to do. Did that just reset everything? I don't really know. I have no idea what it did. Let me see, what's this? So let me let go. Is that? Oh, it's doing it now. Sorry. Nope. Okay, so. Uh-oh. I think. No, I was gonna say I may have broken. The game. Wow. Yeah. Look at this. I slammed it down so that is the tires are actually rubbing up against the body of the vehicle. I'm curious. Will this even go? I have no idea. Oh, well, it would if I didn't run into a rock, doofus. Oh my gosh, look at this. This is the weirdest police off-road car. Oh, this is so hard to drive because of the toe and the camber, not to mention everything else I changed that I have no idea what I did. Oh my gosh, that is awesome. So I say we head off the road here. There we go, a little bit of flying action. Now, remember, I was going to say, remember, we have a lot of air in the tires. That should help make us bouncy, but that's not really going to work out for us. Yikes. That is cool. Oh my gosh. It'd be nice if there was kind of a reset, which there may be. Let's see. I've not really played with that, so what if I go to tuning, and if I reset, and we apply, that should, I think, reset everything to factory default, maybe? It's kind of what it looks like. Let's take a look and see. Yeah, I know. Alright, so am I driving normally? Yes. This seems to be much easier to control now. There we go. We cruise down the road. And flying through the air, because that is really what you're here to do in BeamNG Drive. Set up your cars and then just chuck them across the terrain. That's what BeamNG is all about. So there you go. Oh my goodness. So again, we looked at the various parts and the things you can do with the parts. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell. We can also go into tuning and change all kinds of different settings in tuning. And again, different cars will have different tuning settings. So for example, if I jump over here to the Miramar and we bring up the config and tuning, it does not have anywhere near the options that the Sunburst has. So those are some different things to think about. Also, as you get into the game and as you start to download and install mods, not all mods have all options. So there are some mods that, like, you can't choose how much gas you have, and you can't set things like the toe and the camber and that type of thing. So a lot of that is just going to depend on the mod itself and the person that made the mod, and whether or not that was they wanted to give you access to those settings and what have you. So just those are the kinds of things to look for, things to think about when you download and install your mods. But even just straight out of the box, this game gives you so many options and so much that you can do with the vehicles in terms of setting them up the way you want to, playing around with them. Notice that you can also save and load, so you could actually even save your own setups to bring them back in later. So if I went in here and I don't know, just whatever, it doesn't matter. If I just pick some stuff, no hood, and I want the, I don't want a tow hitch. And again, I could be doing all kinds of stuff. But it will, if I'm not mistaken, it will save the colors and everything. So I'm going to save this just to, well, no, let's call it Joker 1. We're going to save this. So now I have Joker 1. So now if I come in here, and I should be able to, if I pick a different car. All right, so I have a Grand Marshal, and now I'm like, okay, wait, I want my Joker back. I can go back into the vehicles, then I can go to the Miramar. Now, oh, it actually does save it as its own thing. That's cool. It doesn't have a thumbnail, but that's okay. So let's bring this up and let's see if this does what. Yes, it does. Look at there. Oh, that is so cool. I've actually never played with that before. Awesome stuff. So, set up your own configuration, save it. You can bring it back in later. That's very, very cool. So, there it is. That is, wahoo, playing with, various car configurations in BeamNG Drive with the vehicles that come in the game. And hopefully this was helpful and gave you some insight into some of the things you can do. The big thing to remember is that BeamNG is a simulation. It's a simulator. It's not meant to be an arcade racer. It's not meant to act like an arcade racer. It is meant to act as close to what would happen in the real world as possible. I mean, that's exactly what it's trying to simulate. So that if I were in this old-time Miramar and I was going 124 miles an hour and all of a sudden went off-road and hit this big nasty rock, theoretically, this is pretty much what would happen to me. My drive shaft is broken. Well, that probably because, well, my transmission along with the rest of my engine is now in the driver's seat. That is a problem. So there you go. Anyhow, once again, thank you guys so much for the suggestion, for the request. I hope this gave you some insight into some of the cool things you can do with BeamNG, especially for those folks that you haven't bought it yet. Maybe you're trying to decide if it's worth buying or not. I can tell you right now, it's definitely worth buying, even if you don't play around with the mods, just because of the stuff you can do with the cars in the game that come with the game. It's well worth the price of admission. And I know it's in early access. In fact, it's in very early access. Like I said, it's at version 0.11. So they have a long way to go before we see any kind of a retail release. But they have done amazing work in terms of what you can already do in the game and how things behave, the customizations that you can make to your vehicles, all that good stuff. And so, I don't know. To me, it's well worth it. So glad I bought it a couple of years ago. And actually, I bought it based on a suggestion. Someone suggested that I buy the game and play around with it. And by far, best decision I've made in terms of early access purchase for a game. Absolutely. In fact, this is one of the games that got me recording videos in the first place. Just a little piece of information. That's right. One of these days you're going to see one of those, 10 things you didn't know about davidinark, and this will be one of them. That BeamNG Drive was one of the very first early access games that I ever bought, and is one of the first games that I ever put on YouTube. So there you go. Trivia for the masses. All right, well, there you go. Again, thank you so much for the suggestion. Hope you enjoyed the video. Got any questions, problems, suggestions, horror stories? Feel free to leave those down in the comment section below. And thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time on BeamNG Drive.